Greetings and welcome to the Dr. J Vlog series. It is Friday, June 6, 2025, and on Fridays we talk about human behavior and justifications. So most people live in an everyday world filled with routines and rituals and relationships that elicit a sort of normal range, if you will, of emotions and reactions, our daily ups and downs, if you will. And in general, most of us prefer that things go reasonably well, that we have mostly positive experiences, even if it's nothing particularly crazy. If you had a choice, though, wouldn't you prefer or choose to be a positive person, just in general, rather than a negative person? I think the overwhelming majority of us would respond, of course. Why not? For that matter, as a general rule, do you prefer to be immersed in environments that are filled with optimistic people and positive energy? I suspect most of us would prefer that, all else equal. So you've probably had the experience then of feeling positive or negative energy in your encounters with others. And some researchers, myself included, believe that such energy is real and measurable. So I want to think about it first in terms of negative energy. So what is it? What do we mean by negative energy, at least in a human context? And usually when we're talking about negative energy, we're talking about an emotional force that drains individuals and disrupts their interactions. In fact, most people describe their own experiences of negative energy or encountering negative energy as eliciting a sense of being drained or fatigued or overwhelmed. It stems from unfavorable attitudes, behaviors, and social exchanges, often leading to tension, conflict, or discomfort. And the negativity can spread quite quickly, affecting emotional well-being and shaping the dynamics not only of relationships, but throughout workplaces or even whole communities. So recognizing negative energy isn't always as easy or obvious either, especially if you've been exposed to it for a long time and it's been sort of normalized. It's like being exposed to secondhand smoke, as I was growing up. Both parents smoked. My mother smoked cigarettes, my father a pipe, and all of that was normal. And so the smoking and the smells in our house, all of that was, in terms of health, toxic at one level, and yet at the same time, completely normal or acceptable. Not these days, of course, but I'm talking about growing up in the 1960s and the 1970s. But whether it comes from people or environments or even your own thought patterns, negative energy usually follows recognizable patterns as well. And so you can look for certain signs across many different spheres and then take steps, if you will, to minimize the impact of negative energy. So first and foremost, negative energy tends to manifest through our social interactions. Usually the net result is to drain our enthusiasm, create conflict, and shut down healthy exchanges. So some of the key indicators, and again, this is not going to be an exhaustive list, but some of the most prominent ones include tension and a lack of openness in communication. The net result is that conversations tend to feel strained, they tend to feel forced, sometimes filled with unspoken resentments. And again, you might not be able to do better than just to sense that in the context of a conversation. Another indicator would be constant criticism or negativity. I mean, that's probably a lot more obvious. So people frequently then who point out flaws or dismiss ideas or just in general tend to engage in pessimistic thinking. There's also another key indicator would be defensiveness or rejection of feedback. So even constructive conversations can turn into arguments if individuals react with hostility or don't want to receive any feedback. And again, perhaps more obviously, if there are frequent conflicts or arguments or unresolved issues, then that means that the disagreements will tend to linger without resolution, perhaps again leading to ongoing or long-term hostility. And then at the other side, or the other end of the continuum, there's this notion of withdrawal or avoidance or a general lack of interest. So people disengage emotionally or physically, or simply don't express an interest in what's being shared. Okay, whatever. Or one of the most powerful indicators of negative energy that I've noticed over the years is when you ask other people about themselves, about their work or their families, but they don't reciprocate. They don't ask you how you're doing or ask about your work or your family. And then there's negative or harmful gossip, conversations that revolve around basically tearing other people down rather than building them up or having constructive discussions. I get it. Sometimes we all need to blow off some steam. But this is my honest and heartfelt opinion. Every minute that I spend complaining about others or gossiping about their negative qualities or at their expense just feels like a minute that I've wasted. I mean, unless I can turn it into something creative like a song or a story. But negative energy doesn't just then affect our emotions. It can take a toll on our physical selves as well. Prolonged exposure to stress and negativity can lead to a variety of different physical symptoms, such as muscle tension and tightness, headaches, or even migraines, a lingering sense of unease or restlessness in certain environments, chronic fatigue, elevated heart rates, and indeed can even lead to a weakening of our immune systems. And then negative energy also influences our emotional and mental states. It can slowly erode positivity and motivation and emotional stability, leading to increased stress and anxiety. Constant feeling of pressure, of worry, of unease. Can also lead to irritability and frustration. Small inconveniences may start to feel overwhelmingly or trigger outbursts, however unexpectedly. Or again, a deeper sense of anger and resentment, that is persistent feelings of bitterness or hostility towards others. Sadness or a sense of hopelessness can result, a deep and lingering sort of sense of emotional heaviness, and again, accompanied typically by a lack of motivation. And then difficulty in terms of concentrating or focusing. So negative energy then can make it hard to think clearly and to stay engaged and to stay on task. And so the point is of sharing these, and again, most of these you probably already knew, but if you identify the signs, then you can take active steps to shield yourself from the effects of negative energy, establish healthier boundaries perhaps, or just in general create a more uplifting environment. So with awareness and action, then you can regain control over your emotional well-being and make room for positivity, for resilience, and hopefully meaningful connections. And then the news plays a significant role in shaping our perceptions too. And unfortunately, much of what's broadcast revolves around conflict and crisis and division. And so we obviously need to stay informed, but constant exposure to negativity in the media can also take a toll on our emotional well-being. The sensationalized headlines, heated debates, the fear-driven narratives that are so prominent often create a sense of anxiety and frustration, even helplessness. So many news programs and online articles happen to thrive on this kind of controversy and outrage, basically preying upon our susceptibility or vulnerability to the cycle of negativity. Indeed, watching or reading about distressing events repeatedly can reinforce feelings of helplessness and thereby make it difficult to maintain a balanced and an optimistic perspective. And so you need to manage the impact of energy from the news. Be mindful of your consumption. So limit your exposure to distressing news, especially before bedtime or first thing in the morning. Seek more balanced sources. So look for outlets that provide objective and fact-based reporting rather than those that focus on fear and outrage. Be sure to take breaks. Step away from the news if you're feeling overwhelmed or distraught, and so seek to restore a sense of calm. And make an effort to find news that highlights solutions and progress or uplifting events. For that matter, despite the many positives, social media can also be a breeding ground for negativity. From online arguments and toxic comment sections to unrealistic comparisons and misinformation, digital spaces often also contribute to stress and even emotional exhaustion. So negativity in general spreads quite quickly on social platforms, with outrage and controversy often getting much more engagement than positivity. In fact, many of the most popular social media platforms these days are built upon the grievances and resentments that many people experience as they evaluate the world around them. And that stuff is mostly unhealthy. And even more so if you get sucked into one of these vortexes or into the proverbial rabbit hole that amplify all your negative and hostile messaging and critiques. You find yourself sort of endlessly, I talked about this in an earlier video as well, endlessly doom scrolling. So the divisive content in a perverse sort of way might make us feel good in the moment, but actually ends up reinforcing our sense of stress and frustration and drains us of our optimism over time. So the experts recommend that we reduce the impact of negative energy on social media by first curating your feeds, being careful about what you decide to engage. Most importantly, unfollow accounts that foster hostility and negativity. Instead, engage with content that inspires, that educates, that uplifts. Perhaps the Dr. J vlog series. At least that's the intention. Also, you need to avoid getting sucked into these toxic discussions. Not every online debate is worth having. It's not worth your energy to leave a comment. Step away from the negativity rather than fueling it. And also, again, set time limits. Maintain a healthier balance in that regard. And remember that social media isn't reality. I mean, it's virtual reality. It's certainly an aspect of reality, but it's also a very selective slice of what people hope to convey. So, in sum, constant exposure to negative energy can take a serious toll on our emotional, mental, and even physical well-being. And research shows a strong connection between chronic negativity and increased stress, which then also can heighten anxiety and raise the risk of mental health issues, mood disorders, and so on. And indeed, people who frequently experience negative interactions are more likely to develop symptoms of depression and anxiety. And that exposure gradually erodes our mental health over time, making it harder to stay positive and motivated or emotionally balanced. And so let's conclude today then by focusing on what you can do to create positive energy in your life. First, limit your exposure to media, social media. Overconsumption of social media and negative news, as I've mentioned, can lead to mental health challenges. So, instead of randomly consuming social media and news throughout the day, consider blocking off a part of your day to get your news, maybe 15 to 20 minutes in the morning, maybe again in the evening as well. Second, reframe your thinking, your thoughts. It's easy to think negatively, especially if you've been encouraged all your life to do so, or you're surrounded by people, or via your media consumption. So remember, yet again, that you are not your thoughts, and you can harmlessly let many of these thoughts just pass right on by. More important, why not replace them with more balanced or healthier thoughts? You can self-consciously engage in that type of positive thinking, that monitoring the thoughts that are passing by, like clouds in the sky. You can use a mantra to remind yourself. Have prepared statements that are available to help silence the negative voices or the negativity that's maybe starting to flow through you. Simple examples will include things like, you can do this. It's going to be okay. The classic, this too shall pass. Or in the case of Frank Costanza, serenity now. Seriously, what is your mantra, your go-to? Pick one that fits you and that you can use whenever you observe negative thoughts sneaking into your head. And then for me, the biggest sort of source of positive energy is to find your passion in life. Find something that brings you joy, that you care deeply about, and then make the necessary time to pursue just that. Pursuing your passion honestly makes just about everything worth it. Obviously, you still have to do all the other stuff, like your laundry, like getting enough sleep, etc. But having that passion gives your life such focus and meaning and purpose. And it makes so much of the mundane stuff and even the occasional drudgery quite worth it. So, what's your passion? What have you let slip from your daily routine that you really need to bring back? Is it exercising? Is it taking long walks in nature? Is it drawing or dancing? Something else? Whatever it is, put that back into your life or add something that you've let slip or that you've been missing. And you'll immediately see the effects, the positive effects. You'll be energized immediately. And then, as per last Tuesday's vlog, listen to music. This is the Dr. J vlog series, so of course I've got to talk about music too. Uplifting music is an incredibly effective and powerful tool to boost your mood. Now, again, I've explained this previously in some detail. And keep that playlist handy that you know that you can rely upon to lift your spirits. Or from time to time, search out maybe some of your old favorite tunes or the music that you haven't heard in a while to help remind yourself of pleasant memories, places, people who've been a part of your life. And speaking of people, for the umpteenth time, try to surround yourself with positive people. Even positive people can struggle with negativity if surrounded on a constant basis by scared or anxious or hostile people. So include people in your life who can find the good, or who can at least ask, how are you doing in a serious and in a sincere way? And be that kind of person yourself. And that leads to my next point. Do something nice for someone else. Make that part of your daily habit, if you will. Get out of your head to help someone else. And when you do a good deed for someone else, it not only improves the mood of the person that you've helped, it improves your mood. So be selfish. Help others. And by the way, not only does it improve their mood and your mood, it also improves the moods of everyone else who bears witness to the good deed. So again, it has this kind of ripple effect that extends who knows how far, hopefully to the end of the lake. And here's another point that I made again in one of this week's vlogs as well. Make a list. Check it twice. Write down the things that you're most proud of or that you value about yourself. Again, this is not about bragging or building ourselves up to acknowledge our superiority over everybody else. Rather, it's about self-affirmation, an honest appraisal and belief in your own strengths and what you have to offer, what you have to bring to this world. And go back to that list regularly to remind yourself, and at times to update or to amend it as you go along. But go to that list whenever you feel yourself lapsing into a negative energy state, or especially one that involves all of the negative thoughts or self-criticism, worthlessness that you might be thinking or feeling, whatever. Or if especially after you've had say a hostile encounter wherein someone else has tried to drag you down for whatever reason. And then also get in the habit of occasionally writing a letter or a note to someone else. Pick up a pen and paper and handwrite a letter or a note of gratitude to someone that you appreciate. I suppose you could do it online too, but it's just even more personal if you can physically write out your thoughts. And you don't just have to do this on their birthday, right? The proverbial birthday card. But rather, instead, you can randomly choose any day, any time to share with them what you think makes them special. And trust me, again, from a selfish standpoint, you'll immediately feel better about yourself too, just by showing this kindness and appreciation of others. And then finally, and again, this is not an exhaustive list, but go outside and take a walk or just go somewhere different. We all need to enjoy nature and stay connected to the earth, even if we live in a city. And you can do that alone. You can do it with others. I especially like going for walks these days with my wife because almost invariably, she notices things that I might miss. And she'll take the greatest joy out of the simplest of blooms in a field or a forest. And it's totally genuine. She'll see it and she'll immediately smile. And she has this sort of deep sense of satisfaction and happiness and joy. And then she'll often take a photo too. And as her dopey husband, I used to say something like, yes, of course, that's beautiful, but do you need another picture? And it's only in time that I finally came to understand the deeper meaning, the connection she has with nature, with beauty, with life itself. And honestly, I wish I'd shared that appreciation, her appreciation and understanding, say for the first half century of my life or thereabouts, but it's okay. I now understand, and better late than never. Okay, a rather long vlog, but I hope you've found some benefit in this regard. And so until next time, may you and yours continue to create peace in your lives, nurture love in your hearts, and dole out hugs in abundance and as much positive energy as you can generate on a regular daily basis. Peace. We'll see you soon.